right, you're welcome back to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. Well, in the aftermath of the chilling morning on November 28, 2022, when three Southern Cameroonian activists were arrested in the United States, a tidal wave of despair and anger swept through the Amazonian community. But amid this tumultuous storm of emotions, a glimmer of hope emerged with the involvement of Professor Lennox Hinds, a staunch advocate for justice and a respected legal luminary. His decision to shine a light on the plight of Claude Chi, Francis Cheney, and Lesto Lagny not only offered solace to a beleaguered people, but also helped recast their narrative from one of alleged terrorism to legitimate struggle for self-determination. The televised debate between Mr. Ta, our esteemed news director, and Professor Hinds was not just a mere exchange of viewpoints, but a historic dialogue that resonated deeply within the heart of every Amazonian. Mr. Ta, with his adept moderation and insightful questions, laid the groundwork for an enriching discussion, paving the way for Professor Hinds to elucidate the complex situation in southern Cameroon. Professor Hinds, with his profound knowledge and passionate advocacy, drew the world's attention to the injustices faced by the Amazonian people and the mischaracterization of their freedom fighters. This conversation transcended ordinary media discourse, transforming into a powerful beacon of hope for Amazonians worldwide, while it underscored the significance of international solidarity and the vital role of global media in illuminating truths often shrouded in political shadows. Professor Hinds, with his unwavering commitment to justice and human rights, elucidated the legal and ethical dimensions of the Southern Cameroonian struggle, providing not only an appraisal of the current state of affairs, but also a roadmap towards navigating the treacherous waters of international diplomacy and advocacy. Well, this is going to be a high note of these afternoons, this evening's Undaunted. But even before we get into any of that, let's process the prime headlines. On the prime headlines for this evening, we'll quickly take a look at the 50 armed felonies storming Aquia local government area and burning down the PCC moderator's home. Take a look at La Republic terrorist forces taking Jakhiri under siege, with many innocent villagers bundled to an unknown destination. We'll visit the list of corpses abandoned at the Bamenda Regional Hospital, and taking a look at the salary of 200 teachers suspended in the northern zone of Amazonia by the colonial government, as well as Barrister Ndong Christopher saying that the life of Colonial DO of Mbengu's wife is in danger. The colonial administrator has transformed his wife to a punching bag. Now we'll take a look at the highlight for tonight, which is what can Amazonians make out of Professor Lennox Hinds' recommendations? Alright, to get into the full briefings of tonight, let's not forget, let's bear in mind that Professor Barrister Tim Mbesiha would do justice to this particular topic of interest. Stay tuned as we bring the rest of the reports. Oh well, mortuaries in Amazonia have been one of the busiest sectors since the start of the 7 years long war and counting. The over 8 years war, or the genocidal terrorist forces of La Republic du Cameroon being the sole proper actors to this particular reason. These La Republic du Cameroon terrorizing forces see every Amazonian youth as a threat. Well, unlike before, these colonial forces used to kill and dump these bodies day to day. They dump these bodies on the road, but then today, after killing these bodies, they transport them to the hospitals, a strategy to hide their crimes. This is the reason corpses in mortuaries in a given area are known to many oftentimes these corpses are dropped without any identification documents. As such documents are most times discarded by the colonial forces. Oh well, reports emanating from the call made by the director of the Bamenda Regional Hospital, Dr. Dennis Nsame, that four corpses had been abandoned at the start of this week at his institution. A lot of people wondered who were these corpses and what or who killed them. Well, from findings, we get that the director calls for the public to pass by the Bamenda Regional Hospital for identification. Reports have it that the corpses have been identified, the first being Abia Moses, age 45, and he has been preserved for 93 days and was deposited by Reverend Father Roland from Womb. Funwi Brandon, age about 35, has been in the mortuary for 61 days and was deposited by a colonial company commander. The third is Macmillan, age about 26 only, and he was deposited by an emergency unit and has been there for 59 days. And the fourth is Che Lewis, about 30 years, deposited by a colonial military and has been in the mortuary for 50 days. Well, these corpses have been identified by their loved ones and family, and it's sad because not only do these people have to go to see the loss of a loved one, an unexpected loss, they also have to pay the bill for the days that these bodies have been kept in the mortuary for to be preserved. They had to face the financial problems of this particular death cases and also have to face the trauma of losing their loved ones with no trace to how they died. Well, moving on to the very next report, as we told you, in Amazonia, some people have been segregated. Not like that is any news, but then it is in the report again. Ridiculous that there are zones in the Federal Republic of Amazonia that the colonial republic cannot reach without being inside an armored car. And for this, they have decided to withhold 200 people's salary in this region of Amazonia. It is quite sad. As reports have it, these people have not been paid their fees. They've not been paid their salaries, rather. These 200 teachers have had their salaries suspended by the La Republique du Cameroon colonial government. And the suspension was initiated by the in-house slave secondary education Northern Zone delegate. After taking office a couple weeks ago, this delegate has not visited these areas as a result of insecurity, sponsored by the ongoing war that was declared by Paul Biya in Amazonia. The same delegate went about getting names of teachers who, like him, cannot go to these zones, these red zones. Of these teachers have been suspended. But then we wonder, not like this is all declared on the peoples of Amazonia, but non-Nigerian Paul B, and yet they have to pay the consequences of work for La Republique and still not being paid because they are in the zone of Amazonia. Moving on to another report of interest that shows the firepower on the home front. We have General Wonyo here. Well, last week we did tell you who and what a soldier is. We agreed that a soldier is someone who is a member of an army. A soldier can be a conscripted or volunteer enlisted person, a non-commissioned officer, a warrant officer, or an officer. For soldiers in the Amazonian State Army, they are all volunteers because of the need to protect the Amazonian population. Most importantly, they are making Amazonians proud. The ASA, the Amazonian State Army, has ensured that regardless of what they go through, they remain on. We have seen them at different growth levels and stages, and every winning stage comes with more responsibility and victories. From last being the Amazonian Restoration, Amazonian State Army now, where they wrote their names in the sounds of time, to a full-fledged army, they are always doing amazing wonders. The Amazonian State Army has a strong military structure with experienced military generals manning different counties and local government areas. The Amazonian Army goes through a tedious and rigorous workout schedule with their major generals and its leadership. It simply goes a long way to show the resilience, the love, the tenacity of the Amazonian State Army. The senseless war that has been for over 7 years, getting into its 8th year, and counting has given the youth of Amazonia the zeal to march from strength to strength, from power to power, with the help of the Amazonian government. The Amazonian State Army can now measure up with explosive devices like that of La Republic du Cameroon terrorizing forces. While counties like Buyi, Ngokitunja, Bamenda, Ndian, and Donga Matung have shown great gusto and vigor that has made the terrorizing La Republic forces to totally avoid such areas due to fear of being neutralized by the ASA. Well, we have to congratulate the likes of Major General Wonyo, who have definitely made it a point of duty to put Amazonia first by training the Amazonian State Army in a gallant style and giving Amazonia victory.
Why today, 3, number 4th month, 2024. Why General Onyo on the spot live? Una go here and una go see am. Una go hear makaka. Una go see am today. Say General Onyo day. I all think the day fine. Una don't hear. Una don't hear. Una don't see am. Una go see here makaka for back. Motu don't stand and see am. Yeah, una go hear makaka. Ati.
Well, there you have it. And on to this next report, we have Acquire Manu disturbed. Acquire local government area, one of the landlocked areas in the entire Amazonia that's had its fair share of the ongoing genocidal war ravaging the southern Cameroons since over 8 years that has claimed about 60,000 innocent lives. And we have the sad news reaching Undaunted, ABC, Amber TV. Earlier this week, about 50 armed militias, mainly the Fulanese, the previous Saturday, March 23rd, breaking Sunday, March 24th, who broke loose into Acquire local government area in Manu County, but got stuck inside the thick forest and could not access their way home that night. Well, we got this information earlier this week, confirming it on Sunday, March 24th, that they were able to reach the locals' home, but it was noticed that they marched straight to Reverend Funky, the moderator of the Presbyterian Church's compound, where they got hold of the moderator's younger brother and held him hostage before he disappeared. The angry Fulani militias, armed with what they described as Kalashnikovs, as our reporters narrated, got into another compound where they seized a gallon of petrol from a dealer in petroleum products and came over and poured all of the petrol on the moderator's house before opening fired through two gunshots that reduced the entire structure to ashes, as you can see. Nothing in terms of material could have been saved from what you're seeing right now. But being so landlocked, Acquire is easily accessible from neighboring Nigeria than from the Cameroons. The local government area has suffered invasions mostly from the Mbororo and the Fulani cattle rearers in search of pastures. This just shows how porous the borders are, and Colonial La Republic are doing nothing about it. As always, they're sitting idly by and watch this disaster and chaos unravel. While Acquire equally suffers from frequent tribal wars fanned by the CPDM, as we've brought to you in past time, the CPDM elites pitting one village against another through imaginary land dispute. The CPDM elite backed by the colonial administration and the occupier La Republic military in Acquire have equally been using the ongoing senseless war for settlement of scores, and as such, many of their denizens have been killed, houses, including schools and churches, burnt in their intertribal fighting, only to put the blame on the Amazonian State Army. Meanwhile, Reverend Fonke, Samuel, and Andrew Nkea are some of the clergymen who have disappointed Amazonians since the useless war started, instead of siding with their own who oppressed the southern Cameroon's Amazonia, like Desmond Tutu did in South Africa. They surprisingly sided with the oppressor La Republique du Cameroon, allowing La Republique to massacre their own because of reasons we're yet to understand. Oh, well, on to the next report. We have cases of kidnap. It has been the normal routine of the La Republique du Cameroon colonial forces to turn to the innocent population of Amazonia whenever they are challenged by the Amazonian State Army. Such an action is true of the Amazonian firepower that the La Republique du Cameroon terrorizing forces cannot withstand. What is stopping these unprofessional forces from informing their hierarchy that the war is becoming more than them? Is it the interest of more money that has blinded their eyes from seeing that what is happening is not right, including the debts, the countless daily debt. This they have done by burning down houses of innocent people and raping innocent girls, and many more atrocious acts against the innocent population of Amazonia. The people of Jakiri town and Ntonti villages of the northern zone of Amazonia have been trapped under the fury of La Republic du Cameroon terrorizing forces. These unprofessional forces turn to the innocent population of Amazonia to vent their frustration after being trashed by the Amazonian State Army. The Amazonian State Army earlier launched a deadly attack on Bia's military terrorists in Jakiri. The Amazonian State Army launched on the terrorist forces, causing serious damages and casualties. The colonial forces then decided to vent their anger on Ntoti villages. The La Republic untrained forces decided to invade Ntoti, a village under Kwanso Himpuyi. These forces took Ntoti under siege with a local population who were farmers trapped. Some villagers were kidnapped by these same unprofessional forces, and at the time of this report, they had not even regained their freedom. Intelligence report reveals that the terrorizing forces invaded other surrounding villages, including Zerim. Zerim is particularly because of a successful cultural week was organized there, hitch-free. But then the privilege that the in-house CPDM slaves never enjoyed in their attempt to celebrate the anniversary of their party. So these elites are inviting the colonial untrained forces to inflict pain on their people for allowing them to celebrate the CPDM anniversary in Zerim. The reasons guarded by intelligence so far as to why the kidnapped villagers have not been released is because they have not paid the ransom demanded by the colonial forces. So as you can see, La Republic is now engaging in kidnap just like the ADF. Oh, well, we have another report of interest, which has the Chief Barrister Ndong Christopher Mve revealing his true colors and showing what La Republic can really offer, how La Republic can change a mind's perspective. Well, it has made serious accusations of attempted murder against Mr. Ngida Lawrence. Chief Barrister Ndong Christopher makes these accusations against the Mr. Ngida Lawrence, the in-house slave divisional officer of Mbengwi, Momo County. In a poignant message directed towards in-house slave minister Atanga Nji, they details unsettling incidents of domestic violence and menacing incidents of domestic instilled fear within a community, endangering the life of a woman that happens to be his own wife. Well, according to what the barrister said, I have received distress calls from neighbors of the resident of Mr. Ngida Lawrence, and they says that he tortured his wife, Dong Solang Epse Ngida, his daughter too. The barrister here is the father of the victim, and according to Barrister Mve, he almost threw her off the story building, if not for the cry of his children and neighbors. The DO of Mbengwi would have committed murder on the day of this report. Where the letter reaching on the 1st of April 2024 describes a disturbing incident of domestic violence. Well, according to the report, you heard that it is only because of the neighbors and the cry of the children. Else, we would have had a colonial mayor becoming a murderer, but then that would not be any news because whatever is influenced by La Republique has this type of tales. The situation, according to Inve, is extremely serious, with the alleged assailants displaying a complete lack of restraint in his pursuit of her. It just goes a long way to show these types of traits with whoever is related with La Republique. No fear of the law, outright misbehavior. But then we have Barrister Tim in base here in the house, and if he can hear me, I think this is a good point for him to give his thoughts on the reports we've given so far, the reports coming in from the start of this week on up until now. We'd like to get Barrister Tim in base here. It's good to have you back on Undaunted with us just after joining the Ethics Commission. Good evening again, Barrister Tim.
Thank you for having me back. I thought we had ended that. Now I'm back. The news for the week has been very, very rich. So we'll probably just select a few items and put some emphasis there.
Okay.
And I think my first takeoff will be on the happenings in Akwaya. And I will take off with the commentary you made on Akwaya. One of the victims of what happened in Akwaya is Reverend Prof. Reverend Funky is the highest pastor of the Presbyterian Church. He lives in Boya. And you mentioned Reverend Archbishop Andrew Kia. He's the highest authority of the Catholic Church in Amazonia. He lives in Bamenda. Both of them were part of the Grand National Dialogue that took place in 2019. Both of them have sought to blind the facts deliberately or ignorantly. When the happenings happened in Akwaya, Reverend Funky, who was a victim, was able to say, well, I was in the Grand National Dialogue. There's also anything wrong with that. He said the government, unlike other participants, is doing its best, is implementing the decisions of the Grand National Dialogue. He's apologizing for a failed regime. If a man in his position cannot even see the bare truth that other participants in the Grand National Dialogue saw, then does he merit any sympathy if he becomes a victim of what is essentially the creation of Yawundi in Akwaya? I'll come back to it. His next partner in reasoning, and maybe, sorry to say, a partner in crime, is Reverend Andrew, Archbishop of Bamenda. He was in the Grand National Dialogue, trying to do the same injustice to Ambazonians that Yawundi was trying to do. And he came out after the Grand National Dialogue and said, among other things, I'll quote him, that he had consulted with late Chief Mokwete, senator, who informed him that it was impossible for the people of the Northwest and Southwest, in quotes, to live together. That's what he said. But what he seemed to have forgotten, or he knew and did not want to say, is that he is the Archbishop of Bamenda, that he comes from the Southwest. The headquarters of the Archbishop is in Bamenda in the Northwest. Yet, those positions the whole, Archbishop in particular, is almost for life. So he's a young man. He's going to live the rest of his life in Bamenda. He's from the North, from the Southwest. He's from the BLM. And so if Chief Mokwete told him that people from the Northwest could not live with people from the Southwest, I thought he should have been the first person to remind them, no, Pa, you are wrong. Because I'm from the Southwest, I'm living peacefully in Bamenda, being adored and worshipped by 99% of the Christians in Bamenda who are not Westerners. He forgot to say this, deliberately or deliberately. So what do you expect from this gentleman? 10 pastors, 10 bishops, 10 servants of God. Not much.
Yes. You know what is interesting? I absolutely get what you're saying. And what is interesting is the fact that, like you said, when you have Amazonians who are in positions like this and should use their position for the good and the freedom of Amazonia, but refuse to do so, you have people who are not Amazonians, who are far off from the shores of even Africa, standing up for Amazonia. And this person who comes to mind right now is the most recent person who has been on ABC Amber TV, a recent guest rather. Professor Lennox Hinds is who I'm talking about. And I think just before we get back to you, looking at the fact that these people like Reverend Kia and Reverend Funky have been silent about the ongoing war in Amazonia. Let's take a look at what was discussed in the discussion with Mr. Tar and Lennox Hinds just yesterday. Okay, so the reports we have here on the exclusive section with Mr. Tar, Party King, and Lennox Hind has it that first of all, let's take a look. Who is a barrister rather, Professor Lennox Hind? Who is he?
Payment method: www.abcambertv.com/donate. ABC Amber TV payment channels: Cash App 202-650-2216, Zelle 202-650-2216, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. PayPal donations at abcambertv.com. For more details, call +124 028 43 321. You can email us at info@abcambertv.com.
Well, the truth is, a lot was said in that discussion 2 days ago, rather, in that discussion between Lennox Hinds and Tapati King. But then we'll give you quick snippets if we can. But then just 2 days ago, we had that personality, somebody I'd rather refer to as a legend, come on ABC Amber TV to give insight as starting the Kansas City 3. I'm talking about Lennox Hinds, Professor Lennox Hinds, who is a founder of the National Conference of Black Lawyers and former counsel for the government of South Africa and the African National Congress. Talking about who he is, he says he's in the criminal justice program at Rutgers University. He also was a featured speaker at the 10th anniversary conference in 1983 Chicago. May 13th to 15th, and in 1983 held at McCormick Inn. Is also on the list of members of the World Peace Council elected at the council session in Warsaw in 1977. As director of National Conference of Black Lawyers, U.S. Representative, International Association of Democratic Lawyers. In one of our recent programs in ABC Amber TV, we played a video of Professor and lawyer Lennox Hinds in 2008 in New York, where he signed a statement that was circulated by the Partisan Defense Committee calling for the release of convicted Mumia Abu Jamal. He is as well the author of Illusions of Justice. And this is a book that talks about the human rights violation in the United States. Now, this human rights legend right here is the man who has taken interest in the case of our Southern Cameroonian born Kansas City 3. We're talking about the charges the U.S. brought against them in that interview, which includes conspiracy and material support for terrorism, as was tagged. And as the courtroom puts it, Professor Lennox, 2 days ago, debunked these charges, asking who are the terrorists, emphatically stating that these three indicted, but the dictator being supported by the United States and claims to support democracy and against totalitarianism, yet the leader of the war-torn Cameroons is someone who has usurped power for over 42 years. He went on to question who then is the terrorist between these two. He further debunked the charges, explaining that raising monies in support of defending Ambazonia from murder, mayhem, mass killing, and displacement at the hands of the now non-Nigerian Paul Biya, as stated on record by human rights organizations, cannot be a crime. Professor Lennox Hinds gave insight to the political pressure with the case vis-a-vis U.S. upcoming elections and provided Ambazonian strategies to resist oppressions, further stating his intention and willingness to advise the lawyers who'd be defending the three indicted since he's retired from being a legal practitioner. Obviously, he stated that he would have, but then he is retired from practicing the law. Well, at the end of that remarkable session yesterday with Professor Hinds, we get to see that at least Ambazonians have one high-profile personality in society who believes that Ambazonia is right, a high-profile personality who is willing to challenge governments of the world and calling out the injustices that was carried out against Ambazonia, which the world is paying a blind eye to. Oh, well, let's take a look at some of the things he said during the course of that interview.
That's amazing. Thank you very much. So let me ask you this question. In your opinion, how should the Department of Justice address the situation of the Kansas City 3 to resolve it correctly?
Let me say this.
Yeah.
We have to deal with the politics of the situation. Okay?
Okay.
Because these individuals are being tried for political acts. political acts. Okay? So we have to
Yeah.
look at the politics of the situation. Joe Biden is running for president of the United States.
Yeah.
He needs to feel some HEAT, heat.
Yeah.
Now you notice how he is now dancing with respect to Gaza.
Yeah.
He started off, hands off. The pressure now is on him, and he realizes that he may lose some votes. That is why I am saying that the people in the struggle, in the resistance struggle
Mhm.
in Amazonia, need to look at the members of Congress in their districts in the United States, begin a letter writing campaign asking why are these individuals still in jail.
Yeah.
That political pressure is then brought on the Justice Department. Now, I have a book called Illusions of Justice. That is, in the United States, there is the illusion that the justice is impartial, that, there's no politics involved. That's a joke. We need to put pressure on the administration, on Congress, and that resonates in the Justice Department. And they need to know that the people and organizations have their eyes on them and have their eyes on what is happening on this case. You cannot believe that only the lawyers are going to be able to bring justice. And
Professor
if
Hinds,
there
it
is,
is clear.
if there, let me just make this point. If there is
Go ahead.
one message that I want to leave with the people who are looking and listening to this show, you need to get pen and paper. Begin a campaign focused on, if you're in the United States, focus on the members of Congress in your district, asking them to look into this case of the Kansas City Three and making sure that justice is done. If you're outside of the United States, writing to the President of the United States, asking that justice be done. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
That's amazing.
Okay,
Thank you very
that's all
much,
I have.
Professor Hinds.
All right, Barrister Team still in the house. That excerpt right there is a vital aspect of what Lennox Hind discusses in regards to what he thinks the United States the United States Justice Department, to be specific, should do. Barrister Team, first of all, about him coming on the show gives a little bit of hope or a lot of hope, knowing that he is in support of Amazonia. Now, what can you say about his suggestions about what the United States justice should do? How do you think, if that is hearkened to, how do you think it would impact the case of the Kansas City Three?
I'd had the opportunity to say that he coming even on ABC to say what some Amazonians in particular, Cameroonians in general, and Africans in general, will not even say it's a very big achievement. It's a milestone. Just coming there, it's a milestone already. Then his recommendations as to what we should do, I've said before, go further to explain that he understands the problem, sometimes even better than some of us do. Because if you don't understand the problem, you cannot work out a strategy to get out of it. Once you understand the problem, you can then work out a rifle strategy, which ties to what I've been saying sometimes. Not on this. I've been saying that President Sako, for example, is a leader with a vision and a strategy. You have to understand what you're after and have a strategy how to get it. So back to our guest speaker, he has had it all. He has not just said, do this, do that. He has told us exactly what to do. He says, get your pen and paper and write. That is symbolic. There's no need that you must go and get a physical pen. You can go on your computer, on your laptop, that's your pen and paper, and write that information out. What you want to be done. He has not just said go and write. To who is he asking you to write? To people in the United States. He say address your Congress people. The Congress is made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives. This is what makes the Congress in the United States. And this year is an election year in this country. There are seats for the Congress, that is, senators are vying for right to go back to the Senate. House of Representatives are open. They are elected for 2 years. Their terms expire. So everybody is out for a re-election. And they are spread all over where we are. In whatever town you find yourself, they are there. So contact them. And what does he say? You should contact them and say, and address this issue, address this problem. What is the problem to be addressed? He tells us it's a political problem. It's not a criminal problem. Address this political problem of Anglophone. Call it like that, of Ambazonia. And in my last discussion on the ethics, I tried to address this. If you are contacting your congressperson, a senator or a House representative, there are things that have to guide you. If you're writing to them by email, your first paragraph must include, among other things, a reference to the Ambazonia Genocide Library, because they will click open that thing sometimes before or after you talk to them. And when they open that Genocide Library, they see pictures. They will see wonderful things. And as we say in English, pictures speak louder than words. That will go a long way to make the case of the Kansas tree not a criminal matter. It's a political matter, as he rightly puts it out there. Being settled, attempting to settle it in a criminal court. And above all, he tells you, to crown that segment, he tells us that President Biden is on the ballot. He's on the ballot for the November elections. I need votes. And they will do everything to get votes. I remind us of what has happened in Gaza. Gaza is a fight between the Palestinians and Israel. In fact, most Americans or many people in America believe that Israel is the 51st state of the United States. They support them blindly. So what has happened in Gaza at this time of elections has put President Biden, who is on the ballot, has put whoever, Trump, he has pushed him to the wall to address what is going on in the Gaza, like it or not. And I think yesterday I saw something that happened there. I saw something, the government of Israel pretentiously or really punishing some people, their soldiers, for their acts committed in Gaza. They have never done that before. For them, killing Palestinians It's a normal thing. They're not worth anything. But why are they now pretending even to punish 2, 3 of their soldiers? Because Biden, if you follow the news, called on the prime minister and said, look, this thing I can no longer tolerate it, at least politically, because I'm going to lose votes. So what should we do? He said something, he didn't go to that segment. He said something, don't sit here, you Ambazonians, and allow the American government to define your role in this struggle. What does it mean? Don't be frightened just because they will catch you and say you have committed a crime. They will not define your role in your own struggle. You define your struggle for them by the writing, by the contacts, phone, tweet, text, anything you want to do. Communication has been made so easy. And I said in my last segment on ethics, when you go to meet an American congressperson, a senator, or their staff, or the House of Representatives, don't expect to have 2 days with them. Don't expect to have 1 hour with them. You have only 30 minutes at most, and 10, 15 minutes at best. So if we go out with this, with a defined message, refine your message that you want to put to them. You want them to be sorry for you, to listen, to give you a listening ear. Leave all the insults that you and me have away. Put the facts as they are. That will favor you. Going to call Paul Biya a genocidal promoter is not the solution to you. That's not what they want to hear. What has this guy done? What is your problem? Put your problem as concisely as possible. This man has taught us from experience. Then he said, people in America seem to have the illusion that in America you have justice. Now, he says, no. What they call American justice is an illusion. So it's not what you hear. Don't expect to get all the justice in America unless you push for it, unless you fight for it. I was writing this book, I was telling this story after getting somebody who had been in jail for 30 years for a crime that he did not commit. The court has sentenced him. But because people are guilty because the court has said it. No, that's an illusion. He worked hard. He worked harder than that man even in jail and got him out. So don't be despaired, Amazonians. If you listen to his advice and copy his examples, we are on the right track, provided that we listen to the fine print of what he's saying. Again, this is, I've said it last time, this is not Amazonian. This is not a Cameroonian. This is not even somebody from Europe. He is somebody thousands of miles. He has never been to Amazonia in his life. He's reading the same facts that you and me read. I can expand his message. If you are in Nigeria, the nearest country to Amazonia, don't let the government of Nigeria define your crime, the battle for you. By catching Ayoktabe and sending him back to Yaoundé and thinking that that will be the end of it. We have thousands of refugees in Nigeria. Let the government of Nigeria define your role by catching you and sending you back to Akwaya or to Yomojo or to wherever you might have fled from. Be resolute. Governments are not a matter of human beings. Some of them very, very short-sighted. Some of them, in short, criminals by themselves. You see, they're not the government, it's a government. They have ministers there. But will you say that's the government of human beings? Taking away even what is happening in Amazonia, what is happening within before their own eyes. It's a club of criminals constituted into a government in Yaoundé to steal, to kill. And so that's how some governments are around the world. And people will tell us to go live with these people. These people, do you think they believe honestly? Even an ordinary big citizen, he believes that we can live with them. When these people can go and hunt our children in the farms and kill them with impunity, when they can hunt them like game and bring them and dump in the hospitals until they are doing a good job, as you have told, it was in the last segment of your news. How many of us have
Vice
forgotten? And we seem to have forgotten the Pinyin incident,
Yeah.
where they went and murdered our children, packed them behind pickups, like game they have captured, and dumped them somewhere and buried in mass grave. And they expect us to live with them. If this picture of Pinyin, for example, which is found in the genocide library, were to get to any civilized man in the way, they say, no, this is not what a non-human being should tolerate. So I think this man is giving us the highlight. It is for us to do the fine print and do what we can do. Again, let us count it a blessing that we have. Because today, what we call the government of Ambazonia, we should not forget, it's a government in exile. We are living abroad, subject to the countries that host us. If you are operating from Europe as a member of this government, or as a supporter, you are acting from a country, Europe, Portugal, Spain, France, Great Britain. You are bound by their own laws, but don't let them define this battle for you. So we're government in exile. We have to exploit the opportunities open to us by being in exile. And what is the opportunity? Make sure you do everything by the book. Don't commit the crimes against their own laws. And which is why he asked, who are the terrorists? Are these terrorists where these three Kansas people were living in the United States? They are terrorizing who? The people in Kansas? The people in Baltimore? Where are they terrorizing people? So, by the law, they are charged for being terrorists. But who is the terrorist? The guy asked. Who is the terrorist? They for defending their parents, their mothers, and their property back home, or somebody who is coming with guns and cutlasses with
Barrister Tim.
airplanes to bomb like.
True.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you to
Over
Barrister
to
Tim.
you.
Speaking of what you're saying, Lennox Hinds asking that question, who is the terrorist? He went further to talk about the fact that for the U.S. court to tag them terrorists, he went further to talk about the double standards that the U.S. has when it comes to the justice system. Professor Lennox Hinds points out the double standard of the American justice vis-a-vis the fight against oppressed people. Because right here on Adult, we brought to you the other time, Professor Dr. Martin Mungwa's communique about previous people who had done the same thing in support of the oppressed, and they were not arrested. As a matter of fact, they were even supported by the United States. But here we have the same United States court keeping arresting rather these three. So he talked about the double standard. Now, in regards to that, I know you have something to opine with the justice system of the United States vis-a-vis the fight against oppressed people. I'd like to hear you.
For those who don't understand the American system, the justice system in general, when you are charged into a federal court, the crime is investigated by a police officer, a security officer. Their main goal, especially in this foreign crime, they want you to plead guilty for no punishment. Oh, you're on probation. Oh, yeah, nothing will happen to you. They just want you to plead guilty. But you're allowing them to define your problem for you. Don't be encouraged to do that. American justice is in the books, but you have to stand up to defend it. If you want the American government to enter into your battle, the government of America, called government, is a political institution. The American government, like other governments around the world, go to where their interest fits as a government. They go to where their interest is. They don't go to where there's justice. No, they go to where their interest is. And when they get there and they are doing injustice, if they put reward, they recur, they come back. It's not the battle worth fighting. And if you go further, Lennox tells us how the American government at one moment in time found out they had an interest in South Africa. What was their interest? The interest was to defend apartheid, as long as that was a good thing for them. They saw Mandela, who was fighting for the black right, just the right to be equal. They saw him as a criminal, outlawed him, they put a law. The ANC was a terrorist group. That was in the American books. It was not a decree. It had passed through Congress, a Congress of 300 and something people. It has passed through Senate of 100 senators. They criminalized the fight against apartheid. But when the cables turn, there are very people who say, well, our interest is no longer with apartheid. We will support Mandela. These are politicians. So he said, don't let this thing define your rule. And you said again with emphasis, this is a power battle being fought in a criminal court. He calls on Ambazonians, again, if we missed it, get to the political system by doing what? Take your pen and pencil. Take your phones. Take all what you have as tools in your toolbox to communicate this political message. We are talking to a politician, to a congressman, to a future senator. It is about his election. Elections are about votes. Votes are about politics. You are telling that if you don't do this, we will not vote for you. That's the political arena. The guy realizes that unless he addresses this thing, there's some injustice being done here. Then we will have a leeway. And that's the illusion of what he says justice. Because justice is not just what they say, it should be what is done and should be done properly. Again, still in the American system, at one time in this United States, for example, slavery was legal. To capture you and make you work and die was legal. But it needed a political system to change it. Apartheid was, slavery was abolished thanks to the politicians. They passed laws in Congress. No, it's wrong to get somebody to work for no pay. It's wrong to force a woman to be your wife because she's a slave. You know how a slave toy where you make children with her and you deny the children. They stopped it. So that message to Ambazonians is important. Let us make this battle, especially of the Cancer 3 and others that might come, not just a criminal battle, but both a criminal and a political battle. The lawyers we hire will address the criminal aspect of it. But we outside, with our pen and pencil, with our phone and whatever thing we have, will address the political aspect of it through the proper political agents, be they the President of the United States, the Prime Minister of the UK, the President of France, whichever country you find yourself, you can penetrate this war. And I said before, if you look at all politicians in the world, Macron, the King of England, of the UK, of England, whoever he calls himself, King Charles, whatever, they have a Twitter feed. Each of them has a Twitter feed. We can address them on their Twitter feed and get information to them. That is part of the pen and pencil that our learned guest was telling us. Let us get to them politically. That will make the job of the technician lawyer better. I think that's what I got from that message.
All right, thank you so much, Baris. I think there's actually so much to be talked about. But then, just before you go, we know you've been on ABC TV for quite some time now. Let's take a look at this part where I talked about the double standard of Lennox Hinds answering this question from Mr. Tell. Let's take a look at that second video.
We must raise our voices.
Yeah.
And raise our voices that justice be done.
Now, Professor Hinds, it is clear I don't need to ask you that question because it seems that there appears to be double standards about how financial support for self-defense is handled in the court law in the US, whether it's by the Kansas City 3 against the La République du Cameroon military or by Americans aiding those in conflict with Russia, Hamas. I don't need to ask your thoughts. You've spent all the time here trying to give your thought on that. But then you mentioned something about their bail being denied. And as a lawyer or a legal mind, you've mentioned that they have right to bail and there is every legal framework to grant them bail. Do you think that this bail denied is part of the mechanization to limit them from fighting for the cause. It's just a kind of delay tactics or
No question.
limitation
No, no,
or
no, no,
limiting
no
them.
question. There's no question about it. Because if
Yeah,
you, the lawyers representing these young men made the application to the court. And if you
yeah,
read the reasons why the Justice Department claimed that they should be denied bail and the reason why the judge gave them, the judge the judge could not say that uh, uh, there was a risk of them fleeing because, as I
yeah,
said before, their passports could be
mhm,
taken. There could be uh, 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 ankle bracelets put on them so that
yeah,
their whereabouts would be seen, etc.
yeah,
But she said they stand a risk of a danger to the community. But what is the danger? That
yeah,
they have the capacity to raise
yeah,
monies and they would be able to threaten witnesses and so on. So they're coming up with making up these reasons that they are dangerous. And that was the reason for the denial of the bail.
yeah,
Now, quite frankly, if I was one of the lawyers representing them, I would take that up on appeal because there is no evidence to support that. There's no evidence showing that they have threatened anyone within the community. They don't have a reputation of doing that. So I would have taken that up on appeal because all of the time they are spending in jail, it is a hardship on them, it's a hardship on their family, it's a hardship on the overall community. And they
yeah,
can't in the defense of themselves sitting in jail.
mhm.
And the Justice Department and the government knows that. And that's the unfairness of that in violation of the Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution, the right to bail.
Amazing.
Just want you to give your 2 cents on that aspect of the conversation between these two.
Well, I think I've said part of what he said. The main reason why they keep you in jail is to put pressure on you to plead guilty
Yeah.
for a lesser charge or for nothing, which is just human. If you ask Chin, one of them, would you prefer to stay here another 1 year or to go back and meet your family by just saying, well, I'm guilty and paying $500 or paying nothing? A normal human being will say, no, better let me go and bring my wife, my family back home. It's intended to put pressure on you. And as he rightly said, the right to bail is a right. Detention is the exception. Why are you keeping these people in jail? It's a double standard. They are a threat to who? To the community. Do you have evidence that they will go and threaten the witnesses? Which witnesses? For an offense committed out of the United States in Cameroon? Who are the witnesses? Chile will leave here and go and threaten a witness in Cambe or somewhere in Dop. How will you do that? And they're being charged for money laundering. What money laundering are they talking about? I read the charge. Laundering money what? Laundering money is dealing with money illegally. They collected the money legally. It is reported in the charge. They were the chairpersons of an organization. They acted as treasurer and chairpersons. So where is the money laundering? If money is collected legally and sent to a constituted body legally, what is the crime there? They didn't put money in their suitcases and they caught at the airport with cash. So the whole idea is to force you to surrender to the system. Because the system as a system is not just the Joe Biden system, the American system as a system. Justice is expensive. If they must bring witnesses for a useless crime, they will have to import people from Cameroon, pay them air tickets, put them in hotels to come and prove that this guy, the one who caught Kabinatumi somewhere in Bui, that they send money to ABC and they bought weapons because they didn't say they exported weapons from here. They bought weapons. They alleged to bought weapons in Cameroon. Where are the weapons? So the evidence, if there is any witnesses, if they are, they must be in Cameroon. For them to bring them here require a lot of money. So they want to cut short this journey on the system because it's not like they will just go fight down to pay from Bamenda to Kambe. No, you pay an air ticket, lodge in a hotel for as long as it is. And in fact, the case is never heard one day, will never heard 1 month. Are they prepared to do this? No. So they subject you to torture. It is torture, but they call it in legal language just bail, detention, pre-trial. It's bail. But it's torture, it's mental torture, as he asked. This is bringing heavy weight on their own family and themselves. It's mental torture. But you need somebody to speak this to the authorities that be. You and me crying here over ABC for a million days, they also take it to them. So we should let them know this message, and you've shown us the way, the path to sending this message to them. Again, I should say, sometimes we just forget that torture is beating somebody with the collars on the legs or with a cane. No, this is mental torture of these gentlemen. Shall we let that happen? No, it will not happen. We can only assure them, as we speak here, that this government is not going to spare any effort to do everything and anything that will set them free. Because there are victims on the battleground who will not abandon us to their own fate. We will do everything to take them out. If it means bringing people like this, who are many, if it means paying some of them, which is expensive, we will not leave any of them behind. And we just want their families to be consoled, to remain consoled. That it happens to people, but it requires a hero to liberate a people. These are our own heroes. If their suffering would end up liberating the whole Amazonia, so be it. But we shall not leave them alone. We shall not leave any stone unturned. Their family should remain consoled. It has happened to them. We're all the United States. It could happen to me. It could happen to you. If that were possible, they will arrest me. I'm talking here in the United States and lock me up. It will be my own turn. They will fabricate evidence against me, charge me for anything they want. And so they should not be discouraged. We should not be discouraged. We should be able to, we should be very happy that what people are giving all the guidelines on how to fight this battle. Again, it takes a hero to liberate a people. If this will be our own heroes, so be it. We'll go with them to the end of the journey. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Barrister Tim. Those were some very beautiful last words here on Undaunted for tonight. And I think it really sums it up. But we really appreciate your presence for joining us again here on Undaunted to dissect this very beautiful interview between the legend, as I'd address him, Lennox Hinds, and our esteemed news director, Mr. Tapadi King. But with that, we'll just come to a close because coming up next we have the Ethics Commission. But then, in summary from this interview session with Lennox Hinds, we get to find out that we can understand from all that was said by the esteemed professor that the freedom of the people of Amazonia is feasible and possible. While we believe what he said, that it is feasible and possible, looking at the historicity, he looks at it from a political and legal standpoint. A categoric statement that Lennox Hinds made during the course of that interview that resonates with Amazonians in general is him pointing out to the fact that Amazonia is on the side of justice. That coming from someone who has a profile of an honest person, we're talking about the same person who defended one of the greatest history of the black man. We consider this one of the biggest endorsements of our time. Like I said, it's been amazing having with us tonight Barrister Tim and Base here to go through with the entire news and this particular peak of tonight's discussion. And with that, we'll hand over to Lady Casey as she'll be having a very special guest, Barrister Ghana, to join her on the horizon. Stay tuned.